حي على الفلاح.
Are the fruits of Iman. Number one, the greatest fruit of Iman is tranquility, peace of mind. No one will enjoy peace of mind like the one who has real Iman. So if you don't enjoy tranquility in your life, guess what's missing? Iman is missing. This is the first fruit of Iman. Because what does this tranquility come from? You come to terms with the fact that no injustice will go unanswered, no suffering goes unnoticed, no deed goes unrewarded, no affliction except it comes as a test, and then it becomes a means of forgiveness. With every difficulty, you have Iman that there's going to be what? Inna ma'al usri yusra. This puts you at ease. When somebody has problems, and they know it's going to get easier, they know it, right? Then they can handle it. When they don't see an end in sight that they can lose their peace or tranquility. And who knows there's ease coming? The one who has Iman. The one who has Iman. Then, these are temporary struggles leading to eternal bliss. And I didn't lose anything. Whether it be job, assets, health, whatever it may be. I didn't lose it because I have Iman that it wasn't mine to begin with. So it was his, he took it. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This is the greatest gift of Iman, that is tranquility. Then as far as the pillars of Iman, we already established, there are the facets of Iman we already established, and the two things that are inseparable are what two things? Iman and action. This is why إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Okay? Now, as far as Iman and action are concerned, we talked a lot last time in the last session about Amilul Salihat, so I won't go too much into it. I just wanted to make sure you understand the connection between these two things. Once again, I'll reiterate, one of the greatest places where you understand this connection is in Surah Al-Baqarah, when the change of Qibla happened, and Allah said, Allah will not waste your prayers, the previous prayers, but He didn't call them prayers. He doesn't say, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ صَلَوَاتِكُمْ. He says, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ. Allah will not waste away your Iman. What word were we expecting there? Salah, salawat. So it is as though he talks about salah is the same as talking about Iman. So when there's no salah, just you fill in the blanks. You fill in the blanks. Then there's no Iman. Right? It's a serious matter. Subhanallah. This is why you will appreciate the hadith. The hadith in which the messenger is so stern against those who abandon salah. How they'll be judged no different from a Christian or a Jew. When you first read those hadith, wow, this is from prayer? What's the big deal? When you study the text comprehensively, and you realize how big a deal this is, subhanallah. Then finally, the connection, this session was about the connection of the four conditions. So the last two conditions and how they're connected to the first two conditions. You see, Iman is a treasure. And that treasure you get to keep when you have good deeds. But what kind of person would you be that everybody else is headed to destruction and you can save them, and by saving them you don't lose anything yourself? There's one thing, somebody's hungry and you're hungry. You didn't give them because if you give them you'll be hungry. You'll be left hungry. But what if by giving them, you got even more food back? What kind of indecent person would you be that you wouldn't share? What kind of person would you be? So Allah gave us this treasure. And so then a natural consequence of appreciating this treasure is, wouldn't you want your mother to have it? Wouldn't you want your sister, your brother, your husband, your child, your neighbor, your friend, your community? Wouldn't you want them to have this too? And that desire manifests itself in وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. So tawasi bil haqq in this case can become something as simple as a husband who's not doing his job as a husband. And you're telling him, look, you have responsibilities. You married this woman. She has some rights over you. This also now becomes tawasi bil haqq. Somebody's not doing justice to their parents. And now you're telling them, you have obligations to your parents. You have obligations to Allah. You have obligations that you stand before Him at the right time for prayer. Inna salata kanat ala al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. This also becomes tawasi bil haqq, meaning an encouragement to each other to remind them of their responsibilities. So much is embedded in these three word phrase, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, in these three words. Now let's understand how this is connected to what already came. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And now this is the third item, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. It's very simple. If you think of, most people think of good deeds as something that applies only to themselves. A good deed is I pray, I give charity, I do good, I don't use bad words, I don't do this or that or the other. I stay away from bad things and I try to do good things. In other words, people associate good deeds with things that they have to do themselves. But you know, we have two kinds of deeds. Deeds that impact us and deeds that impact others. There are two kinds of deeds. When you make salah, who does it impact? You, yourself. When you give sadaqah, it impacts you, but it also impacts someone else. When you lie, it impacts you, but it also impacts someone else. Now the thing is, if you just worried about the good things that impact you, right? And you didn't take much concern that people around you are doing things, they're not fulfilling their responsibilities, and them not fulfilling their responsibilities doesn't just hurt them, who else does it hurt? Others also. You have an obligation to others who are being hurt. You have an obligation to speak up and stand up and say the truth. You have to do it. And this is a matter of human decency. The simplest example of this you can think of. And it really takes courage to do that. To speak up when you say somebody else might be harmed if I don't say something. Right? This is part of tawasi bil haqq. I should genuinely counsel this person, because if I don't, it will end up harming someone else. Your mother, your daughter, your sister, your wife, or husband, somebody's doing something wrong in the family. They're doing an injustice. They're not giving the mahar, or they're not giving the right amount in inheritance. And it's happening in front of your eyes. And you say to your inner conscience, I should say something. I should say this is wrong. But then you think, what are the consequences? I'm gonna get yelled at. They're gonna think I'm so, arrogant. They're gonna stop talking to me. There are lots of other consequences. So whenever you start speaking about the truth, what comes to mind? These other consequences. But Allah Azza wa Jal has relieved us or removed these fears from us, because all of our fears and our worries are removed when Allah says, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. That first part. When you have Iman, what happens? Who are you afraid of now? Only Allah. Only Allah. And when you do righteous deeds, then that Iman only gets strengthened. And when that Iman is strengthened, it is only then that it's easy for you to do tawasi bil haqq. And if you find it difficult to do tawasi bil haqq, you know what that means? That means that the Iman is not strong enough. The Iman isn't strong enough. The two things become tied to each other. The courage to speak up and stand for the truth is directly connected to Iman. It's directly connected to it. Now actually, let's look at the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri first. من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. Not أضعف العمل, but أضعف الإيمان. He says, whoever sees a bad thing happen, he should change it with his hand. This is tawasi bil haqq too. If he can't do it, he should change it with what? He should try to change it with his tongue. He should speak up against it. If he can't even do that, he should at least feel bad about it in his heart. And that would be the weakest case of Iman. Allah didn't say that would be the weakest course of, the Messenger didn't say that would be the weakest course of action. It would be the weakest faith. So He connected the idea of encouraging people to stick to the truth and to do something about being truthful. He connected that directly to Iman. Just like this surah does. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And then immediately, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. The three become connected. So when we talk about encouraging, sharing the truth with non-Muslims or our non-Muslim neighbors and the society at large, all of that is true. But where does it begin? It begins within our own household. And that's the hardest place to begin. But this is really the place where we have to begin this tawasi bil haqq. You have to look at the injustices and the wrongs and the violations of the basic principles of Iman that may be happening in your own family, and you have to speak out against them. It is much easier for me to sit behind a table and a mic and a camera and speak about these things to strangers. Much harder to speak these things in front of family. Much, much, much harder. It takes a lot more courage, it takes a lot more patience. Which leads me to the next point. When you do this work, it will require and necessitate patience. So Allah Azza wa Jalla concludes this surah by saying, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If you enjoyed this video, please do share it with friends and family. If you want to see more videos from this series, click on the box at the top. If you want to see other videos, click on the box at the bottom. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks.